everybody, I'm Noah from PhoneDog.com. What the heck is ping anyway? It's a dogfight. We've got the Epic 4G, the newest top-of-the-line smartphone from Sprint, Samsung, Galaxy S, Android, WiMAX, QWERTY board, and the Droid 2, the follow-up to the phone that made everybody think that Android was actually Droid. Nobody knows what Android is. I mean, you do. You're watching this video. A lot of people, they really don't. They call everything Droid. It's because of, well, not this one, but the original's fault. This is the sequel. Android, hard QWERTY board, Verizon, dogfight. Compare them, hit them up. Here we go. Special thanks to our friends over at Best Buy Mobile who are hooking us up with some Epic 4Gs to give away to you on the One Pod Bandit after we're done reviewing them. So check that out, Best Buy Mobile. Walk out working, you get a phone. If you want, before you leave the store, they'll help you set it up. If you don't want, well, you say that. They're not going to chase you down and make you set up your email. But if you want an extra helping hand, they'll hook you up while you're in the store. Best Buy Mobile. Enough of that. Let's get on to this dogfight. All right, so on the left, it's the Epic 4G. It's Sprint's second 4G phone. It's the second 4G phone in the United States of America. It runs on WiMAX. It also does 3G. It's made by Samsung. It's part of their Galaxy S series of phones. And it runs Android, ships with Android 2.1 with Samsung's custom TouchWiz user interface on top of it. On the right, it is the Motorola Droid 2, just upgraded to 2.2.20. It is made by Motorola. It is running on Verizon. It runs Android 2.2 with some minor modifications that are still, so far as I know, officially referred to as Moto Blur. But really, it's kind kind of turning more into like just, it's less of the full-on Moto Blur that we saw originally on the back flip, and it's more of this, kind of cut down system with just some widgets and a little bit of integration on the back end, but still it's a little heavier than your standard Android. Okay, so first things first, we'll look at the form factor. Both are side sliders with QWERTY keyboards. Both have screens. Both have multi-touch capable capacitive touch screens. The Epic 4G is a 4-inch 800 by 480 Super AMOLED technology. The Droid 2 is 3.7-inch. It is 854 by 480. So you get some extra pixels on the Droid 2, but actually the physical area of the Epic 4G is a little bit larger. I think both are great form factors. They're both a great size for, kind of the general market. If you had to try to make one phone to fit all, I think these are both really good sizes. They're not, even something like 3.5 inch now, some people consider too small. I still think that's okay for a high-end smartphone. And then, these 4.3 inch phones are, some people love them, but for, trying to do one size fits all, me personally, I think they're a little too big for some people. So I think this is your sweet spot, 3.7 to 4 inches. Both screens are bright, vibrant, responsive. I give a little bit of an edge to the Super AMOLED technology on the Epic 4G. Things just pop a little bit more on it. It just looks really nice in general. Talking about that also, the custom UI system, neither one is quite stock Android, right? That being said, the more I use the TouchWiz, I don't know that I like it, but I dislike it less than I used to. Yeah, it's very iPhone-esque. The icons and the application bar, the launcher bar and stuff. But, it makes sense. It's easy for people to pick up on. I fully understand that Android purists are going to scoff at it and some people don't like it. And again, I might personally, for me, I would prefer just stock Android 2.2 because it runs faster. But in terms of the look and feel and everything, it's actually friendly. It's user-friendly because your screen is a little bit bigger on the, I didn't mean to do that, a little bit bigger here on the Epic 4G and actually fewer pixels. You wind up, it's maybe not as sharp when you're talking about pixels per inch, but the icons are a little bit bigger. They pop a little bit more. Neither one is bad by any means, but you look at, the way the application drawers line up and, just little things on the Epic, you see fewer icons, but they're a little bit bigger. and you see your home menu there the whole time. On the Droid 2, you don't have that home menu there. So it's not a big deal, something you get used to, but for a novice just kind of picking up the phone, it might be a little easier to rock the Epic. That being said, neither one of these is really like a novice level phone. So I don't know, what does novice mean in this day and age anyway? I don't know. But, we'll go back to the up and down view there. And again, same thing, you've still got the launcher bar there on the bottom of the Epic 4G, and you don't have the launcher bar on the Droid. So, all that being said, screen-wise, a little bit of a nod to the Super AMOLED technology. The colors pop a little more, a little easier to see in direct sunlight, but both are very good. Both are very responsive as far as, the touch screens and the way they respond, as long as you scroll the right way. You don't try to scroll. I'm at the bottom of the list, and I'm scrolling up, and it's not going. It's not responsive. I hate this phone. Yeah, user error, buddy. So, I can't really say anything really negative about either display, but a little bit of a nod to the Epic 4G. Also, form factor wise, I showed you, a second ago, the hard QWERTY board. And maybe I'm just kind of having backlash against all of the touch only phones that were out for so long, but I'm really into the actual physical QWERTY board lately. The Droid 2, if you saw, my review earlier, or a lot of other reviews I read, but certainly, my take on it, the keyboard is much improved over the original Droid. A little more action on the keys. They're a little more domed. Better tactile response, and then instead of having that D-pad that makes the whole keyboard off center, you've got just the little cursor configuration down there. So definitely a lot easier to use. I found the Droid 2 much easier to type with than the original Droid, which made me like the phone in general a lot more, because the original Droid I felt like, I don't like the QWERTY keyboard, so why not just have a thinner all-touch phone? Epic 4G, I think this is probably the best keyboard, my favorite keyboard, the best keyboard on any Android device I've ever used, perhaps except the MyTouch Slide 3G. I think the MyTouch Slide 3G might have a better keyboard overall, but, when you take the device as a whole, I think this might, these two guys are certainly in the running. That's why I'm dogfighting them for the best hard QWERTY Android phone on the market. Now, that being said, the G2 coming from T-Mobile and HTC looks to be fierce. HTC makes a great keyboard, I think. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this. And this keyboard for me is just, it's great because you've got the extra row. It's 5 rows instead of 4. So you've got a dedicated row for your numbers, as opposed to the Droid 2 where you've got the numbers as alt keys. You've also got the whole Android menu replicated with hard buttons down here. You've got, both keyboards. What I like is they've got a shift key and then an alt key. Droid calls it alt. Epic 4G calls it function. But you've got a lock, or you've got an alt lock and an alt. I don't know if they needed to double that up, but whatever. But you've got both of those on both keyboards. You've got the cursor layout on both keyboards. The extra wide space bar on both keyboards. What I like about the Epic 4G is that the keys are isolated. That's a personal preference. I prefer these island style keys where there's space in between them. I just find it a little bit, I just like the style better. I like it that way better on a computer keyboard. I like it on a smartphone keyboard. That's just a matter of personal preference. And then as far as actually typing goes, the keys, they have a little bit of that chiclet feel. It's not the absolute best action ever, but it's pretty good. Very easy for me to pick this up and start typing with. And then because the keyboard is just physically larger on the Epic as opposed to on the Droid 2, there's just more room. And so, not in terms of the overall phone for the time being, but just in terms of the keyboard, I give the edge to the Epic 4G because it's bigger, the keys travel more, a little more tactile feedback, and I personally like the feel better. That being said, Droid 2 also, I think, is a quite good keyboard. I like the voice command button down there. I'd rather have that than the emoticon button myself. I like the triple wide spacebar as opposed to double wide. And I like that these keys are a little bit domed and they have a little tiny bit of a grippy feel to them. The Samsung keys, they're flat and plasticky, but they have good action. So both good keyboards. Like I said, edge to the Epic mainly because it's larger. So you've got that 5th row, the extra Android buttons, and then the separation between the keys. But keyboards are very personal. And if somebody came up to me and said, man, I watched your Dogfight, you know what you're talking about. I love the Droid 2 keyboard. I'm not going to argue with you. This is one case where the original Droid, I will stand by my, my review that I hated the keyboard on that device. Droid 2, I think they did a great job of refining it. Both definitely good keyboards. We'll take a tour around the phone.